All right, so nice and delayed, finally got YouTube cooperating. So today we're going back to sword in one hand, playing with something like a Messer, something like a Dusak, working again off of Meyer and the 1570 book, The Art of Combat. So continuing where we left off from last time, I'll demonstrate a little bit. Again, you can use any kind of stick one-handed, whether you have something like this, whether you're stuck with a simple wooden dowel. Anything like this is fine, because right now we're really just working on still, full form, and motion and flow, and making things look good and feel right. So first thing really starting to take off and dig into is, again, getting the proper mechanics of the body structure of the attack. So we start off in a position, again, we call watch, which is down leg is forward, sword arm is up, opposite hand is braced across the back of your hand, back of your wrist. From here, as you attack, we're really focusing on this lean from the waist here, and we're going to throw the opposite hand back as we make our strikes. So really just getting used to this idea. I'm here, driving this through, doing that reach and lean as we come across. As you start adding in multiple attacks, for right now, just really take your time and let that flow and develop into something that's comfortable and smooth. So again, throw attack here, stretch, and I'm going to reset. When I reset, I let my sword hang down low, almost cross my hands on the wrist again. When I come back out, I'm going to stretch and push from there. You see from the front, I'm up high, stepping, cutting across. I'm going to reset and push back out. So just 1, 2. So goals of this are, again, just getting used to this idea of leaning, throwing your attack out, letting yourself follow through and drive through with the attack, with the motion. In his manuscript, Meyer has something known as the Meyer figure. And again, it kind of outlines this way of how you want to attack multiple targets on your enemy. So we talk about multiple targets, openings. We divide the body into 4 main parts. We draw a line across the natural waist, so right below the ribs, right about here, and of course down the center. And we have 4 distinct openings that we target. The openings don't get numbered, but we number the way we attack them. So my first attack is we strike at the, from my point of view, upper right opening. Second attack, we want to follow the bottom left. Third attack is going to come from the bottom right, fourth from the upper left. And there's a very simple pattern you can do, so you can start in any of these quadrants. So your first 2 attacks always go on the same line. From here, you just change the elevation of your sword. If your sword finishes high, you bring it low. If you finish it low, you bring it back high. And you attack on this new line you defined. So here, 1, 2 attacks, drop the sword, take a passing step if you'd like, 3, 4. And do the same thing if I start from left side. So it's off different. I'll start with my feet reversed. So 1, 2, take a step, drop my sword, 3, 4. So we can go into the why Meyer talks about doing this later. Just know for now, if you're going to throw more than 2 attacks, first attack's the same line, take a step, change the line, you cut through. And Meyer has this laid out, and he defines it for all 4 starting positions wherever you start, and just lets you flow smoothly and easily and follow up your attacks and chase opponents and targets and things like that. So a really good starting drill, once you're comfortable with the straight arm, with this lean, with that hand back, is just go through all 4 of these cuts. Just following 1, 2, 3, 4. And just building up that base of comfort. And I know that this looks ridiculous. I know that this feels slow and feels kind of dumb, right? You never see a fight where someone lines up and they go stretch for everything out, come back, stretch out again, pass, stretch, right? That's ridiculous. The fact of the matter is, you're never going to be doing that like that in a fight. The truth is that when you want this reach, when you want to be able to throw that extension and get that extra distance, get that extra reach without thinking about it, training like this is going to make it much easier to build that up and layer that into how you learn to move and learn to fight and drill everything else. So that's the first half, just building up knowledge, familiarity with this Meyer figure here. And however you want to build that up is fine. If you want to take advancing steps with everyone and never switch your feet, that's fine. If you always want to step with every cut, that's fine. Goal of any kind of cutting drill, kind of air drill, kind of flow drill, isn't about giving yourself something to do in a fight. It's giving yourself lots of options to choose from in a fight. So in a fight, again, you're never going to throw this set combination like this, right? It's not useful. It's predictable. It follows through. Sometimes it'll work. It's nice to have, but it's not a set combo you're always going to do. But now you've been practicing all your 4 cuts. If you practice from starting in other locations, you build up your ability to change cuts, start from different locations. Every 4 or each of the 4 starting points, you have different flow combinations, different things to choose from, and it just gives you lots of options if you've done all 4 of those things. I'm not going to say it gives you every cut decision you can get out of it, but it gets you a good starting point. The other drill that Meyer introduces in his DUSAC section is a 6-cut drill. And we can do this lots of different ways. I'll go through a couple, start things off. So first things first, with the 6-cut drill is your attacks are going to start high, middle, low. You go low, middle, high. So that helps me at least tell what's coming next. So it should be an easy flow. All you're doing is cutting the sword across the lines here and go low, middle, high. And we'll break these down a little bit more and really get into more technical details of how to be throwing these cuts, how to be doing these. But that's that base shape, right? So all we're doing is high, middle, rising, rising, middle, vertical. So 2 options, like I said. Meyer has what he calls full cuts and what he calls half cuts. A full cut, like I've been doing, the sword goes all the way across, all the way through, and comes out the other side, ready to throw the next attack, right? Every time I do this, I'm following the whole sword, and it's letting me move through my next attack easily and quickly. The other option he talks about is with a half cut, where I'm going to stop the cut in the middle, then allow myself to chamber back and throw my next cut. So here, it's a different flow, a different rhythm, a different motion of the sword. And this is useful because obviously it lets you hold the sword online until you don't want it online anymore. Gives you a little bit more control of what comes next as well. So tying these together with footwork and slowly building these up. So the first cut is on what Meyer calls his wrath line. That's your, I'm just going to hit someone with a sword, cut them in half across the diagonal of their body. It's kind of the intuitive, natural reaction of how to throw a sword cut, right? We don't really think of sword cuts as being these big vertical things. They're definitely not baseball bat type swings. That middle line, this wrath line, is what this drill starts. So another important thing about Meyer and his footwork is we kind of always, loosely always, want to be advancing with all of our cuts. So as we do this drill, really focusing now on, I'm going to throw the cut. As I do that, my front leg is going to advance. I'm going to keep this leg in front the entire time. No more passing steps, no more turning my hips. This is a single sword. I want this side of my body closer, so my weapon is closer to you, and I can really move and fight more effectively with a bit more range. So starting off, 45-degree cut. As I do, I advance, I step through. As I come through, as it starts to pass down, past middle, past long point, past the point where the sword is no longer useful, my back leg gathers up, and I step out again with my front foot. So, obviously with a sword fight, this is long point. This is the farthest reach I have with my weapon. I'm extended. If I haven't hit you by here, I'm not hitting you at all. Everything after long point is fairly irrelevant. You can really start thinking like, okay, I haven't hit my target. This isn't going to help me hit my target. I need to move on to something else. We all like to think about this idea that all good cuts are big and heavy and go, top to bottom, fully through. And that's really good and useful for drilling, for practicing for cutting events, for things like that. And it helps keep you honest and make sure you are working through having good power and connection all the way through. The reality of a fight, though, is if this isn't hit, I know right about by here if this is going to hit or not. And if it definitely hasn't by here, all this is going to be wasted energy, wasted motion, unless I'm starting to do something else with my body, with my time. I'm not going to say I should stop the sword every time in this long point position, but I can start saying, okay, this doesn't matter. I need to plan for my next action. And using this flow time to help move and drive through in other ways. So the point and function of this drill is, yes, it's nice to get another, like, look, I can do lots of cuts in a row, and it feels pretty and fancy as I move through it. But that's inconsequential side effects. The focus of this drill really should be the timing of the motions of how you do everything. We want to be advancing with every cut. I can't start this cut before this foot is ready to move forward. If I'm landing on this foot here and I'm still trying to cut on it, I can't pick this foot up and then everything's going to be off balance and weird. So really focusing as you build this up to become, okay, I'm ready to cut. So as I cut, I want my arm to move first, small step with my front leg, right about here. Right about here, we're getting into that long point position. So I know, okay, this cut has done its purpose. I'm going to step up here, gather my feet together, chamber, for lack of a better word, ready to throw my next middle cut. As I'm ready to throw my middle cut, I step again. And the same thing's going to happen. Right about here, my cut is done. I'm not going to stop it. I'm going to swing all the way through. But as this comes across, this foot comes up, I get ready to throw my rising cut. Cut comes up, foot comes up. As I'm finishing my cut, gathering up to throw the next rising cut, next middle cut, and the vertical cut. So again, really breaking this down, starting from high, raft cut, and that 45 as I step. As I pass through, foot comes up, stepping across, gathering, cutting up, gathering, cutting up, and across, and vertical. So one more time, I'm up, for the cuts. Notice every cut, I'm stepping and gathering and constantly moving through. I'm constantly advancing. I'm constantly pressing forward behind my weapon. I'm never stepping forward to throw my cut, so I have more time to set things up. Always behind the weapon, always advancing, and really thinking about taking small controlled steps so you can move through and run through everything else. So again, up high, for the cut, and just letting this move through here. So other things you can start playing with as you're working on this, right? You can really start working on, okay, this needs to come across. This needs to come, right? Really getting those hands and hips and everything else engaged as you throw your cuts. And what starts off as a really simple, really basic 6-cut kind of flourish gives you a lot of extra things you can work on and play with to build up your sword vocabulary, your fencing vocabulary, things like that. So you can kind of see it, again, with something a little bit more balanced and useful than a big wooden dowel. The front, it's just really simple, just moving through here like that. And from the side, so you can see it again, just working through these cuts. There. So that's it for today. If there's any other questions, thoughts, comments about working on the single-handed sword stuff, feel free to shout out, let me know. Next week, we'll be starting working on more guards and more transitional stuff.